What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingDudes.com, and welcome back to another one of our Kentucky Derby updates. And boy, it's getting crazy, isn't it, guys? This was a crazy weekend for sure. I personally had a ton of fun. I like it when there's a little bit of chaos. I also got quite the chuckle out of the fact that the best horse running last weekend, as far as what the performances told us last weekend, can't run in the Kentucky Derby, and I think that's just kind of funny that that's happening like that. But let's recap what happened last week. Of course, I'm talking first about Nisos winning the Robert B. Lewis, earning a 105 buyer. Doesn't really matter, though, because he can't run in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, it matters, but not for this video. So, you know what? No reason to really talk about him, right? But he does look very impressive. The horse that finished second, Wind Me Up, also can't run in the Kentucky Derby, so it doesn't matter. So I guess Scatify, the third-place finisher, here in some points, maybe he can back his way into the Derby somehow. But nobody ranked in the top 20 in the Kentucky Derby rankings off of that because, the most impressive ones can't run. We also had the Wither Stake at Aqueduct. Uncle Heavy, the winner there. I ranked him 19th. You got to rank somebody, and you can't rank all these Baffords, so somebody's got to get ranked. Uncle Heavy, I think the thing you could say about him, he was determined to get there, and he was able to kind of edge out El Grandeo right at the wire. So give him credit for that. Uncle Heavy, winner of the Withers, he's definitely going to have to keep improving. The Southwest Stakes did give us a tremendous performance. Mystic Dan in the slop, a 101 buyer. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a second when we get to the top five, but you can't take away how impressive that was. Where did it come from? Not quite sure. We haven't really seen him do anything close to that. Maybe the slop elevated him. And look, horses get elevated in the slop all the time. And you think about Kenny McPeak runners winning in the slop at Oaklawn, you think of Dash Attack. But there were some comparisons, Mystic Dan to Dash Attack. The thing I'll kind of rebut on that comparison is, yeah, Dash Attack was winning, but he wasn't running 101 buyers, and he wasn't running absolutely away from the field. So Mystic Dan, really impressive. We'll get to him more in a minute in the Southwest. Just Steele, second in the Southwest. I mean, he may be that horse that just gets second and third in these big preps and makes it for the coach D. Wayne Lucas. And then finally, in the big one, the Holy Bull, Fierceness, an absolute no-show of a race from him. He was ranked early, kind of got him settled down, and I thought he was going to be just fine up the backside. Time to run, time to go catch Hades, or not even really catch him, just pass him. He was already there right next to him. He couldn't do it. He did not fight. He put his nose in front, and then Hades kind of fought back, and that was it. And he hit the brakes hard, really hard, and an awful performance from Fierceness. He earned a 79, or he got assigned a 79 buyer. The winner of the Holy Bull, Hades. I know people, that was a logical horse to bet. If you weren't going to bet Fierceness, Hades was kind of that one that made sense. And I think he ran okay, but a couple things to keep in mind. It was just an 85 buyer, but the biggest thing for me, the time of the Holy Bull was the slowest Holy Bull at 1 mile and a 16th by over a second. Now, they haven't always ran the race at 1 mile and a 16th, but they've ran a good number of them at that distance, and it was a very slow race. So, yeah, you beat the champion, 2-year-old champion, but boy, it was not an impressive time. Really didn't look visually all that impressive either. So, but still, doesn't really matter. If you cash a ticket on Hades, it doesn't matter if he ran it in 2 minutes, as long as he got to the wire first that day. So going forward, we'll see what happens with him. I did rank him because, again, you got to rank somebody. I've got him at 18, which kind of shows you I don't think he's great, but it was a win. Give him a ton of credit. So a wild weekend of prep races. That gets us to the top five, and wow, it's hard to rank them right now. It really is. I've kind of taken a stand with one trainer in particular, but will that hold up? We'll see. One thing I'll say before we start making or sort of start going through these, if Baffert could run, I might have 3 of his horses 1, 2, 3. If you think about Nisos, I think he's a clear one if he was able to run. You think about May Moon, his debut was good enough to think he was going to be up there at least in the top 5. And then Muth has been very consistent. And you're just like, yeah, they'd probably be ranked ahead of some of these. But anyway, let's get to the real horses here that can run. Number 5, Mystic Dan for me. I put him at number 5. I didn't have him in the top 5, but when Locked kind of spiked a fever / who really knows what that actually means in horse racing, but I just kind of felt like, well, I'll move Mystic Dan up there. Look, I'm not totally sold on him. I might bet against him next time out. We'll just see where he's at. But it's a one-on-one buyer. He showed more talent than most of the horses we've seen in this crop so far. And, actually, that one-on-one buyer is second to only Fierceness, who had a 105 at the Breeders' Cup Juveniles. So I think Mystic Dan certainly kind of deserves to be in the top 5. I don't know if he can repeat that effort. The slot may have moved him up tremendously. Number 4 on the list this week, Sierra Leone. I put Sierra Leone up at number 4. Look, I don't know how good this horse is talent-wise. He really had no excuse to get caught in the Rimson. He passed Dornoch like he was standing still, and then Dornoch kind of re-rallied and beat him. I don't know if that was more on Dornoch or more on Sierra Leone stopping. I'm not quite sure. But at number 4, Sierra Leone, he's definitely shown enough to be up here in the top 5. Number 3 is Dornoch, who did re-rally to win the Rimson. I think his talent level is pretty high. I'm just not sure what he is mentally. And again, that Rimson was kind of weird, right? And so we are in a situation right now where the Rimson runners are ranked in the top 5, the top 2 finishers. And that race has kind of been sketchy at times, producing horses for the Derby. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what these horses do move forward. But I do have Dornoch at number 3. Number 2 is Hall of Fame. He's just a maiden winner, but he did it ever so impressively at Fairgrounds on a Lecomte day. He actually ran a much faster time than the Lecomte winner. So look, Hall of Fame, I think he was super impressive. They're going to go right to the Risen Star off that maiden win, which is a really good sign. Steve Asmussen looks pretty loaded at this point. So I've got Hall of Fame at number 2. And speaking of Steve Asmussen, Track Phantom is who I'll have at number 1. And look, I'm not like crazy high on this horse. I think he's some kind of monster. No, but he kind of just gets the default number 1 for right now. And that's probably a little unfair to say that he's a default number 1 because he has earned it. He's 2 for 2 in the prep races there at Fairgrounds. Really impressive in the Gun Runner. I thought he was impressive again in the Lecomte. Now, the problem with him is I don't really know what's been behind him in either one of those races, number 1. And number 2, the Risen Star is going to be a much tougher challenge for him. But I look at him, I look at his pattern. He's reminding me a lot of Epicenter. I've said that for a few weeks. The one pause I want to give everybody on that is Epicenter, his last 2 races there on that Fairground circuit really made some jumps, right? At this point, Track Phantom and Epicenter are very similar as far as what they're doing on the track. But can Track Phantom make those jumps that Epicenter made? That's what we're getting ready to find out. But as of right now, he's number 1 on my list. So number 5 is Mystic Dan, number 4, Sierra Leone, number 3, Dornoch, number 2, Hall of Fame, and number 1, Track Phantom. Well, I mentioned the Risen Star. That is not this weekend. That is next weekend. So we've got a little bit of wait. Here's what we've got going. The Sam F. Davis is coming up this weekend. Locked was supposed to be in that race and be a big favorite. The news came out that he has spiked a fever, so I kind of moved him down the list. That's never a good sign to have any kind of setback in the Kentucky Derby, on the Kentucky Derby trail, I should say. So Locked is out of that race. It leaves us with a lot of question marks. So the Sam F. Davis is this week. We'll see what happens in that one. It's going to be very interesting. Those races at Tampa always can kind of be a little bit funky, but we've got that race this weekend. Then the next weekend, we do have the Risen Star, and that is a loaded race that really, it's the first 50-point race, and it's also the first race where you go, okay, we're getting to the bigger ones. I know a lot of people were kind of freaking out last weekend. Oh, my gosh, this Derby's a mess. I want to kind of pause that thought. It really hasn't even started, this Derby trail. We're in 20-point races, right? When you get to those 50-pointers, that's when it really kicks in and when it really starts. And so, for example, if we're sitting here in the first weekend of April and what happened in the first weekend of February happens that weekend, then, yeah, I'll say, well, this kind of looks like a mess. But it is a vast overreaction to think that this Derby is a mess right now. I think the Bob Baffert stuff is going to be a problem all throughout. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't overreact too much to what happens in the first weekend in February. We're just getting into it. And like I said, we're still a couple of weeks away from that first 50-pointer where things really get serious. So Sam F. Davis this week, looking forward to it. Always a great card at Tampa. Always fun to bet at Tampa on these big days as well. So we'll be back next week, give you a little update what happened at Tampa Bay Downs in that Sam F. Davis, and then we'll look ahead to the Risen Star and have that updated top 5 for you. So all right, guys, thanks everybody for watching this video. Hit that like button if you like it. Hit subscribe if you really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, check back next week for more Kentucky Derby updates.